So I got arrested February 8th of 2005. FBI arrested me. And within 45 minutes, the Secret Service comes in. They take over the investigation. They let me sit in the county jail for about 3 months. I get out, go to work for the Secret Service, and I am the idiot that continues to break the law from inside Secret Services for the next 10 months until they find out about it. I take off on a cross-country crime spree, steal $600,000 in the space of 4 months, wind up on the United States Most Wanted list, get arrested, go to prison, escape prison, get arrested again, serve out my time. So the reason I bring this up, when I was committing crime inside of the Secret Service offices, that point that they found out about things, I'm in the office one night. They had an operation called Operation Rolling Stone, which was arresting like 9 or 11 people nationwide that night. And one of the people that they were arresting was a very close associate of mine. His name was Sean Mims. He was in Los Angeles. I think now he was dating Belinda Carlisle's son. I'm not sure if he still is or not. But they rounded up Sean Mims. He was in an apartment. The apartment manager comes out as they're putting him in the vehicle, and he was like, hey, I don't know what went on here last night, but Sean last night had a U-Haul truck, and he loaded up all kinds of stuff. And it turns out the stuff he loaded up was all the evidence the Secret Service needed to prosecute the kid. So they come back to me, and they're like, we need you to take a polygraph. And I was like, I'm not taking a polygraph. Called my lawyer. He was like, well, you don't have to. I was like, well, good. He's like, well, if you don't have to, they're going to throw you back in jail. And I'm like, well, bad. And he was like, well, have you done anything? And I was like, yes. And then he was like, well, you could always try to pass the polygraph. And I was like, okay. So needless to say, I did not pass the polygraph. They revoked the bond. I knew that they were going to search the apartment that I was living in Columbia, South Carolina. I had family on the outside, but of course, once you're in jail, the only phones that you've got are those phones that are monitored all the time. And back then, each inmate would have a specific PIN that you would use. That way it would catalog that it was you making the phone call. And you know, the clever guys, they would swap pins with each other. So that would mess up law enforcement, hopefully at that point in time. So of course I gave my call to an associate of mine, and I was like, hey, it would be really good if you went in my apartment and got all this shit out of there before they search it. And needless to say, that phone call was recorded because they were paying really close attention to me, and they found everything that they needed to find to give me 7.5 years ultimately in prison. I remembered that. I still remember that. And I remembered at that county jail, you said at your county jail, maybe 100 people working there. At the county jail in Columbia, South Carolina, far fewer than that. It was horribly overcrowded. There's absolutely no way that human beings could monitor and go through every single phone call. Because I'm going to tell you, when you first got arrested, anytime you could get to a phone, you were on the phone trying to get your bond, trying to tell people what to do. If you were running a criminal business like I was, you were definitely trying to continue to run your business from behind there. I saw men behind that were inmates that were doing that. I saw men that were still threatening their girlfriends, all kinds of things, trying to intimidate witnesses, just a host of other things. And like I said, I saw your technology. Wiretap tech. And I was like, man, that's a nifty product right there. So why don't we talk about those prisoners' phone calls a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, and that stretches all the way back to when I was interning in Los Angeles. One of the jobs they would have the interns do was monitor phone calls. I mean, we had 50 interns just for that division, and we probably listened to a couple thousand hours over the summer.
Right.
And on one of the cases I was assigned to, we caught a gangster that was planning to murder the single eyewitness in his case. He was talking to his girlfriend. She was getting money together. They were hiring a hitman, so he was talking to the guy that was going to hire the hitman. They got the money to him. He was going to buy a gun. Fortunately, he just bought weed and ran off with it, so they didn't actually get the witness.
Which is pretty common too.
I'll never forget the quote though, because his girlfriend was talking to him saying like, hey, should we really be talking about this over these phones? Like, they're recording this. And he said, bitch, I've been in and out of this jail for 15 years and they've never caught me once on these phones. And
Except this
except
one
now,
time.
So I burst out laughing when I heard that. And so yeah, that added extra charges. He ended up getting convicted and it was all good. But it's funny just hearing you say like, yeah, we switch pins. We were still planning stuff all the time. We know all that too. We just don't have anywhere near the manpower. I mean, I think almost every single felony domestic violence case where the guys are locked up, we know they're calling their girlfriends and telling them not to testify or threatening them or saying, think about the kids. All of this stuff's illegal. That's another felony.
Right.
So
yeah, I saw that. I spent a lot of time, as you know, before you go off to prison, you spend a lot of time in county jails. I spent a lot of time in county jails, and I saw a lot of domestic abuse cases. And you're absolutely right; those guys continue to torment, their partner. They continue, if they can't call them directly, they'll call family members or they'll get someone to call them, and they're constantly on the phone, just bam, bam, bam. Tell her not to go. Tell her I love her. Tell her not to go. Tell her she better not do this. Tell her I'll kick her ass. That kind of stuff.
Exactly. And so it was back in 2019 that I got inspired to found Wiretap. The company's called Wiretap. Our website is Wiretap Tech because wiretap.com wasn't available.
Gotcha.
And one of my buddies was prosecuting a murder case. The defendant had made 7,000 phone calls.
7,000.
7,000. He'd been in there for 9 months, made 7,000 phone calls. And my buddy made this offhand. He made this offhand comment to me that was like, why can't I hit Control F and just search for the words in these calls and see if he mentions a gun or the witness's name or whatever? And for some reason, that thought just struck with me. Like, why can't we do that?
Right.
So I went to the coffee shop next to the courthouse, started researching, and I was like, I've realized that this technology actually was available. It was called natural language processing. Obviously, it was 2019, so artificial intelligence wasn't quite as buzzy as it is now. But like, I saw that was a burgeoning technology too, the ability to have computers not only listen, transcribe, but also analyze it for evidence.
Right.
And so I was like, so my next thought was like, well, I'd love to use something like that. So I started researching, like, are there any companies that provide this? And there just weren't. There was one
no
company
companies.
I ended up later finding that there was one large company that does it, and but it's very expensive. It's hard to get a hold of them. I couldn't use it. And I knew our jail wouldn't be able to afford it. And I'm not trashing that company or anything like that. They have a different business model than what I do. But I was like, I want something I could sign up and use right now.
Yeah.
And so I ended up I'm not a programmer. I had no interest in tech or anything like that, but I hate inefficiency. And so I was just like, you know what, this is something that has to be done. This could save millions of hours a year. And particularly law enforcement's understaffed right now. So the ability to save man hours and save time and save money I think is just a huge opportunity. And so, now we've got a program that you can plug like 5, 10, 15 hours of jail calls in. They transcribe all at the same time. So you can plug in 10 hours of audio. It'll all be transcribed in about 5 to 10 minutes.
Nice.
And then our AI analysis takes about 2 or 3 seconds after that to see. And we've got it basically programmed to flag keywords and things like that. So if they're talking about witnesses coming into court or not coming in to testify or subpoenas, anything that could have relevance, or if they're mentioning guns, drugs, anything like that, those calls will get flagged, and we have a little evidence notification that will pop up and say, hey, check out this transcript. They're talking about witnesses, they're talking about guns, whatever. So there's little summaries of each of the calls as well.